Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Alphabet Google. It is time for another update, and on this chart we would have been able to track something quite bullish, a very nice and good impulsive structure to the upside from the very early stages, ever since we actually formed our initial 1-2 setup. But with the latest developments we have formed in 2025, we would be able to look for a potentially overwhelmingly bullish structure to actually unfold. Now, this is not decided, this has yet to prove itself, but the potential is there, the signs are there, and we could be looking at a very serious extension. Now, on the larger scale, we have been tracking this idea of a double 1-2-1-2 setup and a larger third wave to follow to the upside. This additional 1-2 setup was another very strong sign that something more bullish would be going on. Then within this wave tree, we could have been tracking a third wave to form a top within this area, something like this, Didn't really need any severe extensions. Now this fifth wave would have still looked nice with an extension. We might be building exactly that. As I was saying, this has not been decided. But the momentum is suggesting to us that we can speculate for something much more bullish to unfold, and that would be, instead of having this as a wave tree, to instead track a series of 1-2 setups. Now, this would be a very high amount of 1-2 setups, and it would be even meaningless to try to find the exact structure that would work out for such an idea. But we would be able to focus on this to be instead a 1-2 setup, still the same as in the potential fifth wave, to have a third wave unfold, fourth and fifth, but then we would be able to look for another 4-5 pattern. We would in fact track this entire movement to the upside as a wave tree, and we would need to create a 4-5 pattern to match every single 1-2 setup we have so far formed within this area. Clearly meaningless to track the amount of 1-2 setups when we haven't yet built the actual wave tree. And this is still a work in progress. There is no evidence that this would be unfolding within such an idea, such a structure, but I see the potential because the momentum increase has been quite apparent, and we might be looking at this to be a third wave of an even larger wave tree, and in such a case we would expect strong extensions to still occur within this area. Now, firstly, I would still like to see the ideal target within the wave tree to be reached. So we have here our 1-2 setup, and the ideal target is at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. And before we actually provide that, I wanted to briefly mention our channel newsletter where we provide our monthly top picks. The link for sign up is in the description. And I also wanted to mention that if you enjoy our content and you want to support the channel, you can now do so by joining the channel membership. You have the link for that in the description right besides the newsletter. Or you can click the join button and you get access to a couple of cool perks such as additional content. Now, back to the chart. Here we have been tracking this 138.2% extension of the wave 1 to be the ideal target for this wave 3. This is around the 490 something dollar level, 492, 495, around that area anyway. And while we haven't reached it yet, we are looking to do so before we complete this wave 3. Otherwise, we would not be able to reliably track a wave 4 correction for a fifth wave to follow afterwards. So right now, we remain focused on this idea of a wave 3 unfolding within this area, where I believe we might be looking at very strong extensions still to occur. So in this area, in the previous video, we have been looking for an ultimate area of support, and we will continue to do so. This area of support will persist being here on the chart until we actually break it, because while I cannot guarantee that a count would have formed a more substantial top and that the wave 4 correction itself would be unfolding, I would have to be prepared for such a possibility. Now, in this case, with the latest developments, the latest extension to the upside, I would now like to consider that perhaps we have a top within this wave 3 in place and we would need to look for the wave 4 correction. This will serve us as our ultimate area of support. We would know that if we break the 50% retracement here, we would not be looking to extend to higher prices, and if we don't manage to create clearly a fifth wave before we do break this area of support, we would also know that this idea of an impulse within this area has failed. At this point, we are watching the levels between the $291 all the way down to the $238 at the 50% retracement. Now, personally, I don't believe we are looking at a substantial top within this wave tree. I believe we are looking still for extensions to higher prices in probably even more than one waves, but we might be looking at the next degree of a wave tree to be complete with this additional extension to higher prices. So in white, we will consider a possible top in place and we will track an area of support for this wave 4, but internally I will track a different pattern, a different count, and I will show the main area of support to you in a moment. But before, I want to highlight a couple of key ideas from the previous video. So we were looking for a potential 5-wave pattern to form in this structure to the upside. We have managed to hold the area of support for our supposed wave 4 correction, but with such disproportion in the wave 4 compared to the wave 2, I strongly believe this is not the count that we are tracking. I'm looking for this to be an independent 5th wave that has formed within this area, and the updated count that I would consider to be going on within this area would be here in a 1, 2, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th. Within this wave tree, we have a 1, 2, and in the previous video we had apparently completed this as a wave 3, we have a wave 4 correction here and a 5th wave that has unfolded. This would have been a 5th wave itself, and we would now be looking for a wave 4 correction for this idea where we would expect a 4th and a 5th and then another 4-5 pattern before we would even complete this wave 3 in white. But as I was saying, I cannot look for a failure on this chart unless we break the 50% retracement in the white area of support. Now, in the case of the yellow structure we are tracking for continuation to higher prices, I would be watching here the levels of support within an impulse between the $298.7 all the way down to the $251 level. And if we don't manage to get into this area of support, I might be able to consider an internal extension going on within this wave tree that could allow this to instead be a 1-2 setup. For such an idea, the area of support would be much higher and the last level would be the 78.6% retracement at the $306.6. We have in fact touched that perfectly within this initial push to the downside, so I cannot rule out an extension in a 1, 2, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th, but at the same time, this is not an initial 5-wave move to the upside. The risk is very much present here, but this is the interpretation I would track if we were to see a more direct breakout. Additionally, if we form an initial 5-wave move to the upside within this area, I would be looking for a potential 1-2 setup, and this would become a much more interesting opportunity because we are overall tracking an impulse to form in this supposed wave 3 in blue anyway, but as it currently stands, we only have within this area a 3-wave move to the upside. This remains highly unreliable. It is rather suggesting that it is a corrective pattern and that we would extend to even lower prices. So if I were to track within an ABC pattern potentially in a yellow interpretation, the ideal target for the wave C would be the 100% extension of the wave A around the $292 level. We would be looking to reach even the white area of support, but keep in mind we don't need to get there within such a correction, within such an extension. And keep in mind, if you want to dismiss the fact that within this structure, within this extremely fragile time frame, we haven't managed to create an initial 5-wave move to the upside and you want to look for a position anyway, we wouldn't be holding the area of support for continuation to higher prices either. We would have fell below the $312 level and we did sustain within this area. So this is very likely to still look for lower prices before we would look for a more substantial reversal to the upside. Now, I cannot tell you if we will only get a brief touch of the yellow area of support before continuing in the next 50 to the upside, but it sits here at the $298.7 level, and additionally we have some structural support at the bottom, the beginning of this internal 50 to the upside at the $296 level. Those levels are often taken out before continuing in a larger uptrend, although the way I see it now, we might very easily be looking to reach the ideal target within the current developments within this area, where in this wave C to the downside, I might even consider this to be something like a 1, 2, and then a third wave unfolding, a fourth and a fifth to complete this pattern, where I would track an ending diagonal, and in this ending diagonal, I would consider the wave 3 to still be forming and to have only built the internal wave 3 within this area. Now, I actually want to change the degree for the larger structure, but here I would be watching the area of resistance for continuation to lower prices at the levels between the $316.4 all the way up to the $323.7. If we break above the 78.6% retracement, something potentially short-term more bullish would be going on, but I wouldn't be looking for the next wave to the upside to unfold. Perhaps for a reset of the wave B, sure, but nothing I would consider substantial or significant. We have so far pushed almost perfectly into the first level of support. We did everything but touch it, but actually, if I draw it right, I believe we might have even touched it. Yeah, no, just a small nano gap we have here within this area. But yeah, for now, I'm looking still for lower prices, but from the area of support in yellow, I'm looking for continuation still. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.